Welcome to yet another exciting pattern drafting class. Today we shall be making this trousers. The measurements we shall be needing are the waist, the hip measurement, the full length, the thigh, the knee, and the instep. It is measured like so. Now we shall be taking the full length measurement. If you check on the paper, you'd realize there's a line already drawn, a margin on the top and the side of our brown paper. Measure our full length. Make sure to include your seam allowance in your length. Now, to get your knee line, you will divide your full length by 2. This is the traditional way of doing it, and it has always worked. You mark your knee line, and then you square it out. To get your thigh line, you divide your hip measurements by 6 plus 3 inches. Whatever you get, you mark it on your brown paper and square it. This is the traditional way of doing it. To get your hip line, you divide your waistline, which is the upper part there, to your thigh line by 3. Whatever you get, that is your hip line. Mark and square out like so. So we have waist, hip, thigh, knee, and hem. Now let's translate our measurements. You divide your hip measurements by 4. Remember, hip measurements divide by 4. And place it like so. You indicate your measurements there. Plus 0.3 inches. And then you mark. Remember, hips divide by 4. To get your thigh measurement, you divide your thigh by 2. Remember, thigh measurements by 2. And then you translate your answer on the thigh line. You mark, and if you need to draw a longer line, you do that, but that's how you go about it. Now you divide whatever you got as your knee measurements by 2. You mark it on the thigh line, the hip line, and your waistline. You go over to your knee and you apply the same math. You go to your hem and mark out the same measurements. You connect everything with a straight line from the waistline to the hip to the thigh, the knee line, and to your hem. You connect it straight with a straight line. Next, we're going over to the knee. Whatever we get at the knee, we are going to divide it into 4, so that you put 1/4 on the right side, and then you mark the second quarter on the left side, like so. To get your waist measurements, you divide your waist by 4. On this side, you put your 1/4 and add 1 inch to it. That is towards your center front. From this side to this side, I measured 1 inch down and then connected it from the side to the center, and then drew a straight line to the hip line. Remember, it's 1 inch below the waistline. You draw a line connecting it to the hip. You measure the instep, divide by 4 as well, and then you mark it on either side of the line too. 1/4 on one side and another quarter on the other side. You connect the thigh to the knee and the knee to the hem. Do that on both sides. Using a curve, you connect the thigh to the hip, like so. Using a French curve, you curve from the thigh line to the knee line on either side of what you have drawn to have something like this, and also at the waist you curve it. The waistline was curved, and also the thigh to the knee on both sides were curved. Now this is our front piece. Oh, sorry, our front block. And then from the hip line, you'll mark 0.75 inch, an indication for your zip, like so. Now I went ahead and used a pen to draw out the lines so it will be clear as to what we've done. Now to the back. You place the front on top of your remaining paper like so. Using a tracing wheel, you trace the front part of your pattern paper. That's just the front towards the crotch. You trace it using a tracing wheel. Now that you have drawn it, all that you need is the tie line to the hem. You don't need this extra part that I mistakenly drew. Now I'm going to drag it out. Now if you notice, the front has been shifted away from the back by 2 inches. Exactly 2 inches. Now at the waist, you measure 1 inch upwards, like so. Remember, we're drafting the back. And then 1 inch also away from the 1 inch we drew. We draw a line like so. Now this 2 inch includes your seam allowance as well. So from the hem of your front, you put your tip and measure to the thigh line to see what you have. You then measure the back crotch, center back, and see that you have the exact measurement as the front. If not, you mark where your measurement is and indicate. Usually, my front and back are the same, but it is important that you check. You square it out like so. Now you connect to the back like so. And then using a French curve, you curve out the center front like so, or your free hand like I'm doing. Now at the back, you measure 1/2 inch away from the center front. This is going to serve as our dart and connect it to the waist. Sorry, to the hip line, like so. At the waist, you also connect it. Your 2 inch here is inclusive of your seam allowance. So in this case, when you put your pattern on the brown paper to cut on your fabric, you don't include another allowance. This is all inclusive. And then you cut. There you have it, your front and your back pattern. Now to the darts at the back. To get your dart, first you subtract 2.5 inch on your waist from the center. And then you measure your remaining waist. Find a midpoint, mark it like so, and then you draw a straight line to your hip. Our hip on the front piece is 6.5, so we measure the exact 6.5 on our front, on our back piece, and that's the length of our dart. You draw a straight line like so, and then you measure 1/4 inch on either side of the straight line and connect. This is our back dart.